Hello and welcome back to Eating with Dagmar. So this is part 2 of making raw cottage cheese. So here we go. It's been sitting with just a tablespoon of raw apple cider vinegar in it, heated up to 85 degrees, and it's been sitting for about 12 hours. And like I said on part 1, what you wait for, it could be anywhere from 8 to 24 hours that it would take you to turn this into jiggly jello. And I had the towel around it to keep it warm because it did get a little colder during the night. So now this is the consistency that you want. Gosh, I hope you can see this. See, I jiggle it and it's basically like one unit. You could see it kind of being like one big white jello. So the first part to making a successful raw cottage cheese is to, before you strain it, we're going to put it in a cheesecloth. We're going to scrape the fat, which has settled on the top, off of it, and we're going to put it in a container, because if you put the whole thing into the cheesecloth, the fat will drip out with the whey. And to me, nothing is worse than low-fat cottage cheese. Not only is it gross tasting, but it doesn't have all the beneficial fats if it's done in raw version without the milk being pasteurized. So now, let's see, how am I going to show you? You just kind of gently, like ice skating across, God, I really should have our cameraman. So you're skimming. So I just skimmed off the fat, and I'm going to put it in here. And whatever you do when you skim off the fat, do not refrigerate it. Let it sit there until the cottage cheese has dripped out. Because if you put this in the refrigerator, it will harden and be like butter. The idea is that I'm separating the fat out of it, and after it has dripped out all its way, I will then put the fat back into it. So, can you see? I am now gently, if you just scrape across the top, you can feel the difference in texture. The fat is fatty and mushy, and what's underneath is more solid and gelatinous. So it's not that hard to scrape off the fat. And it's worth every scrape because it will make the cottage cheese taste rich and more like creamy as opposed to just dry. Now, cottage cheese is extremely high in protein, even more so than yogurt. It's concentrated protein. I think every quarter cup of cottage cheese is 7 grams of protein, or so the same amount as 1 egg. So I love scraping off the fat. It's fun. It requires you have to be gentle and firm at the same time. If this cottage cheese was a woman and I was a man, the cottage cheese would be very happy because I'm being gentle and firm. A little tip for the men out there. We like gentleness, but not too much. Too much gentleness makes you, as my southern gentleman neighbor says, puts a little too much sugar in your tank. We don't want you to have any sugar in your tank. We want you to have testosterone in your tank. So we want to know that you know where you're going, that you have a sense of direction, that you won't let us push you around. Because the moment a woman feels like she can push a man around, forget it. She may even marry you, but she'll lose respect for you very quickly. And I'm not talking about being an asshole or a bastard. I'm just talking about being a man who actually has principles and integrity. And yeah, it's an interesting paradox, principles and integrity. You know, a lot of women complain that their men don't have integrity or that they're lying or hiding stuff. But if a man with integrity walked into their space, they wouldn't know how to recognize him. They would give him a different label. They would say, oh, he's too, what's the word that women use? Oh, he's toxic. He's toxic because he doesn't do what I tell him to do. Really? You know, this whole toxic masculinity stuff, I think. I mean, yeah, there is as much toxic masculinity as there is toxic femininity. Men don't have the market cornered on that, okay? And just using that label, I think, is just so lame and weak. Call somebody toxic masculinity. First of all, most women don't even know what masculinity is because, sadly, we haven't had much experience with that because the education system, social, what would you call it? Social training, or, you know, trying to make people be politically correct has really put masculine energy into a like into the underground. This fatty part, it just tastes basically like sour cream. Really good. You could just do sour cream separately, but I want to put this back into the cottage cheese because it will make it so much more pleasurable. But anyway, what was I philosophizing about? Masculinity, toxic masculinity. Yes, yeah, that a lot of women sadly wouldn't even recognize masculine energy, or a man who knows where he's going, who's got a clear opinion and a direction, and who hasn't hung out his balls to dry. So anyway, I have scraped off some of the delicious fat, and now we just have this mix here. So what you do before you put it into before you start straining it, you like score this gelatin. So you see how, oh, see how gelatinous it is. It's, so you kind of score it and cut it a little bit, break it up a little bit, which will start to release the whey. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to get the cheesecloth, and this is my trampoline. I jump on this while I'm on the phone. It's a wonderful thing to gently bounce on your trampoline while you're on the phone, or on my cordless, on my landline phone. Yeah. So here is a little square of a cheesecloth. This is the best kind. I'll write down under the video exactly which brand it is, but this is the just the right kind for making cottage cheese. Now I put it into the bowl, and now I'm going to pour this into it and hope that I don't splash all over the place. I wonder how real chefs do this. It's gotta be, okay. Well, it's splashing. It's splashing on my clothes. Oh no. Okay, well, let me, ah, don't splash so much. Oh man, I'm gonna have to wipe down the counter afterwards. So it's getting fuller and fuller. Okay, now all of it is in here. Okay, so now that it's in here, what you do, next step, I now have whey all over me. Way all over me. So now I will just tie a knot once and then twice, just so that it doesn't fall apart. And really I should have had this bowl in the sink, because it's so full it's probably going to, yep, it's already spilling on my counter. But no use crying over spilt whey. So now I tied both ends separately. You see, they're both separate like this. And then I just connect them. And now I'm going to, some people, when you have like cabinets, they have hooks on them. So if you have that, you could hang it there. But I have a hook right over my sink. So I put it in the sink. And then I use my trampoline. And now I have a little hook up here, and I'm going to hook it up there. And the whey is draining into the bowl, and it will probably, it can take, well, I don't know, maybe anywhere from 8 to 14 hours. So it depends. I like to really drain it of all the whey. I like it very dry cottage cheese, because then I'm gonna add all this wonderful fat. So, and then what you can do with the whey, you can save it, and if you have a garden, or you could put it into a smoothie if you want. But if you have like plants that like acid, like if you have blueberries, growing blueberries, you take the whey and you mix it with some water and you pour it on the blueberries, and they love it. They really get to be excellent blueberry bushes. So I think that's basically, is that it? Yep, that's it. That's how you make raw cottage cheese. And, or maybe I'll do a part 3 where I reveal to you when it's finally dripped itself out what that looks like. So I hope you learned something, and that you will make your own raw cottage cheese. Remember, you can't do this with pasteurized milk, because it does not have the mesophilic bacteria like the raw milk does. So have a beautiful rest of the day, and thank you for joining me.